Good afternoon, everybody. Scott with Pratt& Associates Realty. I did not post a video yesterday because I wanted to digest more. And I was actually angry and upset yesterday until I got a different perspective about this. I won't go into that. I was a little upset yesterday and also said to myself, Scott, you don't know all the facts. The reason why you're so upset is because you're actually really confused about this, and it makes it look like there's going to be an opportunity for my career in the future. Until I started really digging into this and I heard one perspective that really struck a chord with me, and that was from a video from Ricky Carruth. And I like him. Some people call him like the Alabamian Tony Robbins. I don't think so. He's just very disciplined individual. I appreciate having discipline in this business because let's face it, for the past, like, I'd say 7 years, everything's been appreciating up. It's been kind of like not so challenging to get in the business first off until now. And there's been a lot of agents who made some quick, fast, easy money. And I think there were a lot of agents who did get in this profession to take advantage of people. But fortunately, I think something like this, you and me, and I know there's some sellers out there who've kind of like wished for this, but I don't wish for a career or an entire industry to collapse. I do wish that the bad ones would go away. And there's bad ones, and I've dealt with them, and they suck. And they're loud, and they're cussing at you on the phone, and I'll have my way. And I want those people to go away. I want people who know how to negotiate. I want people who literally want your best interest at heart. I want those people in the business because as I grew up in this business since 2010, I had too many transactions happen one after the other where I had sellers crying at the closing table. I'm talking hard people, mean, hard people who were great clients. But we get to the closing table and I'm thinking, they're going to be just normal expression, but they're crying and they shake my hand. They hug me in the parking lot. You changed my life. I love you. This, hardened Vietnam veteran. But yeah, I had that happen one time. And that was a very heartwarming story. And that guy is doing so good right now, and I'm happy for him. He's living on the lake, living his best life. Good for that man. I appreciate it. But the perspective I'm hearing differently. So let's back up. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm sorry I'm rambling. This is definitely not going to be TikTok worthy. Well, I'll have to shorten this down or whatever. But this is going to be YouTube stuff. This is long form YouTube communication. So how this whole lawsuit started was, now, yes, the plaintiffs were coached by attorneys to bring this case forward, so that's schmicky, but I do see some logic in it. Now, there are some MLSs owned by the National Association of Realtors, I'm just going to call them NAR from now on, where if you went to go in to fill in the compensation line, it did not have a zero. My MLS does, which is not owned by the National Association of Realtors. So when this lawsuit came up, I was like dumbfounded. I was like, what are y'all talking about? You mean your MLS didn't do that? So in a way, I'm like, yeah, that is wrong. You shouldn't have done that. Ever since I was in real estate school in 2010, I remember my instructor saying, who actually did serve on the Georgia Real Estate Commission, good dude, Chuck Janitis. I do remember him. I had another guy teach. I think he's deceased. God rest his soul. But they both explicitly said there is no such thing as a 6% commission rate. Never has been. And it's only because that is an amount that just over time seemed to keep popping up and seemed to work for everybody. Now, the different in my practice, the same thing. Hey, typically the seller does, but you have to understand that that doesn't mean that is actually legally the case. Like, typically they do because over time we thought this is the most efficient way to do business. But just to let you know, there are cases where a seller does not pay commission. They have a right to do so, and we negotiate that outside the MLS. I have told people that in the past. Maybe not the MLS part or whatever, but I have told them, like, hey, listen, like, typically you pay, but you don't have to. And my contract, all the Georgia Association of Realtor contracts have said, in the case, as in there is an option to not pay commission to the buyer broker, in the case that seller does not pay, so this amount to him, this amount to you, and whatever they agree upon. So it's always been negotiable, and I do appreciate Georgia's perspective on that, and the the Georgia Association of Realtors perspective on that. They did a good thing. Seth Wiseman is our attorney for the Georgia Association of Realtors. I guess he knew a bit more about license law or just contract law in general, and he put that in for us. Thank you, Seth. He'll probably never see this video, but I wanted to let him know my thanks anyway. So that's why I have more of a different perspective about real estate than maybe what's going on nationally. And when I was sitting in real estate school and I heard that, I always thought to myself, when will that day come that I get to negotiate? Hey, buyer, there are cases where sellers don't pay commission, and you're going to have to pony up, and I don't mean pony up in a mean way or anything like that. I'm just saying, here's the list of my services. Here's what I can do to help that my services equal this value, and it saves you this headache, heartache, and total property destruction. And I am much cheaper than a courtroom, or I'm much cheaper than having to hire a contractor to rebuild the whole dang house. We'll get into that story in a minute. But I think the industry has had a bad moment where they did not articulate what a buyer's agent did. And I think a lot of people for a long time were starting to think that agents were just glorified door openers. Heck no. And I'll proffer this to you. If it was that easy to get your license, and if it was that easy to make that much money in this field, in this career, then you should get your license. And also, why don't you see more people getting their license? But, why isn't everybody in real estate? But, everyone's not going to be interested in this kind of stuff. I understand that. But it's not an easy career. It's not an easy field. It's very rewarding, though. The stories I've gotten from my clients, the relationships I've developed, and every time I see these people, even if it's been a few years, it's like meeting them again, and it's like old home week, that kind of feeling. So I do appreciate that. Where's I going to go from here? But basically, I do agree with that. The MLS is not offering a zero line. That's bad. What will I do from here on out? I'm going to tell my sellers, as I've kind of told them in the past, this has always been negotiable. It's just now you need to have this reiterated to you. So I touched earlier in the video about perspective. So this is a different perspective, and I did not think about this. I was watching these videos, and they dumbed them down. I'm not saying I'm smart or anything like that, but if you oversimplify something for me, I tend to overcomplicate it in my mind. But this person had said, it was the plaintiff in the Snitzer Burnett, I forgot the name of it, case. The plaintiff said, why am I paying somebody who does not work for me? And I was like, what are you talking about, man? They paid for the house. Now, we'll get into that second perspective in a second. What he was meaning to say, this plaintiff was meaning to say, was, why am I paying someone who actively is negotiating against me? And in some cases, the buyer broker is negotiating sometimes the price down. They're negotiating for concessions. They're negotiating for items to be repaired. And why is my money going towards that? But the thing is, you are paying a listing agent, and this is what's been in practice for so long. And I know I jump all over the place in my videos. I know that, and I'm sorry. Pay attention to this one. When you pay your listing broker, that's 6%. Let's say 6%. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 10, but I wouldn't do that. That's weird. They'll go to you, and in our contracts it says, hey, you're gonna pay me this amount, but I'm gonna actually take some of my money at the closing, and I'm gonna give it to this. I'm promising to give it to this person to incentivize them to bring me a buyer. And that's why we've done that system for so long, because we wanted to help our sellers be marketable in a way. Also, please consider this. When you have a buyer buying your home and you're like, well, they are having to pay all this money out for these commissions. The thing is, let's say you bought the home for $100,000 a couple of years ago. Now you're selling for $300,000, which is a very likely scenario given this market. The thing is, you can look on Zillow, my home's worth this. That's an estimation. Your home is not worth anything until a buyer buys it. What does that mean? In other words, like market value. Market value is an estimate of what your home's worth. But when someone actually buys it, that gives it the value. Money is being exchanged. Now, actually, that property is now worth what that person says to you. Hey, I believe your property's worth this. I'm going to give you that money. And so look at it from that perspective as well. And when I say that is because I feel like there's going to be a point in time in the future where inventory is going to be much greater than it is today. Existing inventory. I think actually new homes might be kind of, but we'll get into that later. That's more TikTok worthy stuff. And there may come a point in time where you have to say to yourself, I need to figure out, I'm going to have to actually negotiate with these buyer's agents to incentivize them to even show my listing. So that might be something that comes up in the future, but you have to understand something. At the end of the day, this was all your choice as a consumer. What you pay for commissions, if you even elect to use an agent, you have to understand that you had and do still have rights as a consumer. And after this lawsuit, all that this gives... I'm so sorry. All that this gives me is an ability to explain your rights instead of just, and I hate it so much when I get in a transaction and everyone's like, get it on the market, get it on the market, get it on the market. I'm like, I want to sit across a table from you and have a calm cup of tea or coffee and hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what you need to anticipate in the sale. They're going to ask for this. They're going to ask for that. You don't have an expansion tank on your hot water heater. Yes, I said hot water heater from the South. Eat my dust. I don't know, whatever. And I also want to explain to them in depth their rights. Like, this is the scenarios that are going to happen. And also, please understand, as long as I've been in business, you did not have to pay the buyer's agent a commission. It was just what we thought was in your best interest. Now, the other perspective is, why am I paying this person to negotiate against me? I get that. I understand that. But they are paying you that elevated price for a house. There will come a day in the future where your house will not be worth what it was worth in 2024, in 2023, and in 2022. It will be worth a lot less. I hope to goodness that doesn't really happen, that we have another freaking 2008 recession. But as there is such a pent-up demand, and I know what you're thinking, there's already pent-up demand for people to buy houses. There's going to start becoming a pent-up demand of people who just are like, this house doesn't work for me. I don't care what the interest rate is. I have to sell. I have to move somewhere else. I will take my money here and I will transfer it over there. Maybe they'll downsize, maybe whatever. But people always are buying and selling and moving houses. And I think right now what this whole lawsuit's doing right now is people are thinking like the market's stopping and oh my goodness. And no, it's not. It just means that when I do take on you, a client, that you and I are going to have a very in-depth conversation about your rights, what's the market doing right now, what works for your finances. We'll be adding up a net sheet to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and how we can make this sale work. I just took a list. Now, it's a pee-widdly little listing, I know, but I still love these kind of listings. It's a blank piece of land, just a tad bit under an acre. And I shouldn't have said P. Woodley. I treat every single, I don't care what the price is, every single client gets top tier Scott service. So now I feel bad about that. But anyway, I'm moving forward. I talked to this lady last night about compensation. I said, in light of these lawsuits, and I explained to her what was going on. And she said, yeah, I understand, let's just negotiate that when it comes up. And I was like, that's a good attitude. Now, I want to give her expectations, of course, but with everything going on right now, it's kind of like, what do we expect? But guys, this video is already too long. I hope I helped you. I'm going to make a condensed version down for TikTok, but I have to get all my thoughts out. I have to get all this out. And it wasn't until I watched that video by Ricky Caruth when he said, hey, like, the other perspective is, why am I paying for someone who's negotiating against me? Then I was like, oh, this makes big sense. This makes a lot more sense. And I'm telling you this too, if you're a real estate agent, you're watching this, or if you're a member of the public and you're watching this and you're like, this real estate agent's coping or whatever, No, I'm not coping. I'm not coping. And there is still very much value in real estate agents. And I do have to tell you a quick story. I had a friend who were a couple. I hope they don't mind me talking about it, but I'm not going to say names or where they live or anything like that. They moved down to a different state, and they were in a hurry because of schooling and whatever. I don't really know what was going on here. I only know what they've told me. They elected not to use a buyer's agent because I believe what they were trying to do is make themselves more marketable to the seller, this house that they really liked. And the person who was selling the property was a contractor, and they were represented by a listing agent who turns out was not licensed. Neither one of these people were licensed. And they felt very rushed in the sale. They just kind of just went along to get along. Their home inspector didn't catch anything because it wasn't a home inspector that the agent recommended. So God knows if that was actually even a home inspector. I mean, probably was. I can't say that, and then I'd get sued. Whatever. Everyone's suing everybody now. But what happened as a result of this was, and I remember asking, I said, do you want me to refer someone to you? I have a good friend in that area that does great work. She's a great agent. And they were like, no, we got this. Like, we're already like getting the deal done. I was like, okay, like I'm not, hey, that's your right as a consumer. Do what you want to do. They have spent tens and tens of thousands of dollars trying to get this home livable. And I feel like if they had gotten an agent, and let's say this agent was hired by them, they actually like used it, hey, we will pay for this agent to represent us. And I'm not saying they should do that. I'm not saying what they should do. That was their choice. All this stuff is your choice at the end of the day. I feel like if they had hired a really professional, long-term, experienced agent, I mean, if it was me, I would have walked in the house. They have some mold problems. I'm incredibly allergic to mold, so I guess that's valuable there. My ginger self is allergic to mold, so I would have, at 2 seconds and walk in that house, I would have had a headache, gone outside, and probably dry heave. But so that, and I would have also kind of looked around and be like, you know what, I don't like what I'm seeing here. And then I would ask this agent, hey, like, let's do these offers on our form, like real estate forms, a realtor forms. Oh, I'm not a realtor. Okay, that's fine. We'll do them on, but I want to do them on my forms. What's your brokerage? Let's put because you have to list your brokerage in there. Oh, you're not part of a brokerage. These are lawyer drawn up. Who's the lawyer? You know what I'm saying? Did they even have a lawyer drop these contracts? Because I know agents there, especially if you're going to commit a misdemeanor and pose as an agent, you're not getting a lawyer, especially a real estate attorney is going to be like, no, I'm not, no. You know, they will type you up a form, but it's very explicitly in there like, hey, this person's not a real estate agent. They're not a real estate broker. And that's fine. If you want to do that, you can as well. You can do that as well. And I would have spotted all this kind of stuff. And I wish I had been more cued in on this. I totally, like, after they were like, hey, we're okay. We don't need a referral agent or anything like that. I was like, I backed totally off. And I feel bad about that. I should have checked in. But yeah, I would have smelled foul early on. Hey, GC, what's your license number? Oh, you're actually not a GC. You're a fraud. And you're building a house in an unsafe manner and putting the public in harm. I will wrap up this video by saying this. There are times where it seems like that agent doesn't really do much for you. There's a lot of things behind the scene going on that they cannot talk about because of license law. And I've had agents who abused me, treated me like garbage, but I still have to go back to my client with a smile and tell them everything's okay. And then I'm negotiating the situation for them. And I also had another person who was trying to sell their house that they bought without an agent, and it turns out there was a underground spring up in the crawl space, and they didn't know about it. So I've seen that before. There is value in real estate agents. And also, if you look at this whole case, the lawyers off this case, they made about 25 to 35%. And the plaintiffs themselves made maybe a few dollars. They were compensated maybe a very tiny bit of dollars. The people who made money in this case were the lawyers. But I've always kind of had this ideology. Real estate agents, our fees almost always are cheaper than the courtroom. I still think we have value. I still think we offer something good for the public. And I am excited about what's going to happen in the next coming years because I have been in this business for so long. I have helped so many people, I have seen just the way their faces light up at the closing table and how they shake my hand and hug me and tell me how much I've done for them. And for some reason, I get a real buzz from that. So I want to continue to do that for people. You look, you're just an agent coping, trying to listen. At the end of the day, even people like you, even people who don't like agents, I still want to help you. I still want to prove to you how valuable I am because I love working hard. And this video is long. This will go on YouTube, but y'all have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end and you listened to me ramble this whole time, but thank you so much. Having a great day. Bye.